Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Monotui, and today I'm bringing you guys another episode of our Oris Draft League Viability discussion series. Of course, I am joined by my co-host, Schady. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Schady.
Alright, yeah, you probably know who he is by now. This is like part whatever the hell it is. What? Good talk.
Whatever.
Okay, so today we're gonna start off... We're going to start off with an interesting one. We're going to start off here with Mega Sableye. So there was a point in time where I thought Mega Sableye was the best Mega in the format just because of how much it centralized your opponent's team building. Like, you just couldn't run hazards, which I now know is not true because there are hazard setters that do threaten Mega Sableye, and there are definitely ways to get around Mega Sableye. But that being said, it is still very solid. I always consider this thing definitely more of a team player than individually good, though I can sweep teams with the calm mindset. With its stats, they're solid. 50 HP isn't great, but when you pair that with 125 defense and 115 spadef, and then you invest, you're doing really good for yourself. Of course, the big selling point on this thing is Magic Bounce, being able to bounce back hazards. This is probably the best Magic Bounce user in the game in regards to bouncing back statuses or stealth rocks and hazards in general, just because it's bulky enough to the point where it can switch into most attacks, typically from bulkier things that want to set up stealth rocks. Like, it can switch into Hippowdon, it can switch into Nidoqueen, it can switch into things like Crocodile, depending on their item, things like that. It also can be really, really annoying to deal with, just because whatever is switching in could have their item knocked off. You can't set up on the physical side versus it because it has access to foul play. It of course can burn you, which is always really annoying. It does have access to priority in Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak. It has actually a pretty decent move pool. Like, it gets obviously access to Dual Stab and Dark Pulse and Shadow Ball. And then it has fighting coverage and Brick Break and Low Sweep. Fake Out is commonly run in OU now, just because you are guaranteed your Mega and you're not threatened out by things like Stealth Rocking Heatran immediately. You can Fake Out, get your free Mega up, and that's totally viable in draft format as well. I believe it gets the Elemental Punches, it gets things like Icy Wind, it even gets Low Kick, Magic Coat, which is entirely useless, don't run that. Your ability is a continuous Magic Coat. I think I've seen some people run Power Up Punch. I don't know how successful that's been, but it's there. Taunt, it is a very slow taunt user, but you can run it if you want to. It has then Headbutt to hit fighting types that your Dark Stab wouldn't be able to do too much damage to, so it does have a lot going for it, but it obviously has a lot of its drawbacks. Like, its typing is really good, it's only weak to one thing, but that one thing happens to be Fairy, and you can't hit Fairies hard whatsoever, so pretty much any Fairy, assuming they're a special attacker, can switch into this thing, take a burn as no big deal, and then fire back powerful Fairy hit. And especially if it's like Stealth Rocking Clefable, then they will be able to get up their hazards afterwards, or like a Stealth Rocking Mega Diancie or regular Diancie even. So, very solid Pokemon, very good with some teams. Like, pairing this thing with things like Talonflame, Dragonite, things that are weak to rocks are super good, just because it does still deter your opponent's hazards very much. It's always going to be in the back of your opponent's mind. So yeah, Mega Sableye, really cool. Definitely not everyone's mon though. You can go into it in a little bit.
Yeah, I personally don't like Mega Sableye. It's just too passive for my liking, honestly. Where I was the same as you at some point, where I thought this thing was probably one of the best things. The thing was like the highest priced mon in PPL for a season, which in hindsight is absolutely ridiculous, but you know, I think it was season 2. It doesn't matter, we're all bad at then. So, you know, it does have a lot of options offensively, a lot of moves, but it's just kind of weak. And a lot of things can set up subs on it and just kind of set up or whatever. Though it does the job, it just completely hard walls a fair amount of fighting types and other threatening Pokemon that just can't do anything to it. It's always nice to have. And calm mindsets are viable. It gets Moonlight, which I just found out, which is weird. Don't run it, it gets Recover, but it's interesting. So yeah, I personally don't like it, but it's fat. It prevents your opponent from setting up hazards most of the time. Some people don't even bring hazards, and yeah, that's cool. But it's also a Pokemon gets easily pressured, I feel, into switching into too many things or too often, and it just ends up dying because it can't recover that often. Or it has to recover every time, and then you just lose momentum entirely. So I'm not a fan of that personally, but it's a decent mon. It definitely does its job, and it's cool in terms of it's cool as a part of a good wall core, I feel. Don't pair it with Chansey. I know it worked once, but don't do that. It's not good. I'm not saying it because it's a stupid core. It just doesn't work well. Yeah. Okay. So that's my Sableye.
Yeah. Also, again, kind of like we mentioned, obviously it's a really good Magic Bounce user. That's also really good in draft format, just because the way I typically and a lot of other people typically like to beat certain Pokemon's counters, like if I have like a Mega Lopunny, granted Mega Lopunny beats this thing because of Scrappy, but pretend it didn't or whatever. Like, Cresselia beats Mega Lopunny, so I just slap Toxic on there, predict the switch, click Toxic, and then it's whittled, and you can't do that with Mega Sableye. So it's like, suppose you have, I don't know, like...
Mienshao.
Yeah, Mienshao, sure. That's a really good example. You want to slap Toxic on there to beat this thing, you can't, because it's just going to get Magic Bounce back.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess we're gonna move on to the next guy, and that is an old school Pokemon, Scizor. I think everyone likes Scizor in some way, shape, or form. It's a cool guy. Of course, the big thing about the thing is Technician Ball Punch, having one of the best priority moves in the game, or being one of the best priority users in the game, rather. Seeing as priority is incredibly important in the format. I learned that this season by actually having good priority for the first time ever. It's really good to have such a strong priority in the bag. With 130 base attack, Technician, that dual punch is going to hit really hard against most things. It also has good bulk in 70, 180, so it can take a couple of unstep fire moves here and there. And 65 speed is not the greatest, but since most of the time you're going to click Bolt Punch, you know, it works. The main thing this has over Mega Scizor is that it's a choice band. It can run choice band, and that alone makes it a better revenge kill overall, just because it hits a ton harder. Not a ton, but like a fair amount harder. But that's pretty much it that has over it. In general, you can run Aqua Berry and stuff like that, which also helps with setting up. It gets U-turn obviously for a strong momentum gaining move. It gets coverage moves such as Brick Break, Superpower. Why do I say Brick Break? No one wants Brick Break ever. Aerial Ace for things like Poliwrath or Keldeo would come to mind. Knockoff obviously being one of the best moves in the game because this move is stupid. Iron Head if you want some stronger stab. I don't typically see Iron Head even in draft format, but I think it definitely has some viability just because it hits even harder than Bull Punch, and that's good. It gets Bulk Bite for a strong boosted Bug Stab, and it gets Pursuit, which is always also really, really nice. You can threaten things like Lotties in draft format or other Psychic types. You need to threaten them out anyway because of your Bug Step, and you can Pursuit and trap them, and Pursuit trapping is really, really good in draft format. You know, it goes for Psychic types, it goes for Ghost types and stuff. So, yeah, Pursuit is really cool, and the thing is also a Baton Passer. It gets Sword Stance and Agility, so you can Baton Pass that into things, which is cool. More of a niche option, but in certain matchups it can definitely be helpful, as well as it being a defogger. Not the greatest one, not gonna lie. Regular Scizor is not an amazing defogger, but it can do a job in emergency situations, and it's not affected by T-Spikes, so that's kind of nice for a defogger. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Scizor. You can run Scarf in certain matchups, that's always cool. But yeah, Scizor is just a really cool priority user. The Steel type obviously is always good to have on your team. And yeah, it's a cool metal bug guy thing.
Yeah, Scizor is always one of those mons that's really scary to prep for unless you have something like Hippowdon or a Zapdos or like a Thundy or something along those lines to check it offensively that resists its dual stabs. But one of the really good things about Scizor is a lot of people like to have momentum gain like U-turn, which of course is always really nice, and then you get stabbed very powerful U-turn, so no matter what switch is in, it's going to be taking a lot of damage and you're gaining that initiative anyway. You covered Scizor pretty well, but I'm going to move on to its Mega counterpart, which I prefer a little bit to regular Scizor. I know there are people who prefer regular Scizor, but the added bulk that Mega Scizor gets is amazing. With 70 HP, 140 defenses, or 140 physical defense, it's bulkier than Skarmory, which I think a lot of people forget. Not necessarily forget about, but a lot of people don't always consider when they look at this thing. Like, they typically see like an SD sweeper, but this thing is incredibly bulky. Its the def at base 100 is also very solid as well. You invest a bit, you're going to be able to take hidden power fires, you're going to be able to take some unstabbed fire blasts and flamethrowers. This thing is incredibly bulky. All of the utility options that regular Scizor gets, this thing does even better. Like, it's an even better U-turn user for initiative because you can build it bulky, take a hit, U-turn to gain initiative, still coming off of a base 150 attack stat, which is always really good. It's a little bit of a better setup sweeper with Swords Dance just because of the added bulk. You're able to not get too KO'd by a lot of different things. Set up Swords Dances, spam Bullet Punch to win the game. Much better defogger than regular Scizor. Again, just because of the bulk, you're able to take hits better and then throw off a defog. The 10 added speed that it gets can actually come in handy a lot of different situations. 75 is actually really nice. You can outspeed things like Uninvested Rotom a lot easier. It's easier to speed creep with things just because, again, like 75 is a lot better than 65. You can outspeed Breloom if you want to, even though you don't necessarily need to because you have Bullet Punch. You can and knock it out with an Aerial Ace if you wanted to. The other base 70s, you can build this thing Jolly, and then you'll outspeed Adamant or Modest base 80s, which is always really nice. This is also another very, very good Baton Pass user because you can set up a Swords Dance, tank a hit, Baton Pass out into something. Like Baton Passing out into a Speed Boost user is always fun, or just Baton Passing a Stat Boost into something that you want to possibly sweep your opponent's team. And it's always nice because Mega Scizor is one of those Pokemon your opponent probably has a switch in for, but you know that they're going into that switch in because they can't afford to do anything else. So you can always capitalize on those switches. It's also a better Pursuit Trapper than regular Scizor just because, again, the bulk. Like, if you can build this thing to Pursuit Trap a Lottie, and you can take it, Hidden Power Fire, click Pursuit, then click Bullet Punch and knock it out. There's so many different things this thing can do. Like, it obviously has the same move pool that regular Scizor does, but like, other than just straight up being offensive, it's better than everything that regular Scizor does.
Especially clicking Hidden Power, because it has high special attack. It's really helpful.
Yeah. I guess also, with the Mega Form, you lose that unnatural gift. Not that that's the biggest problem in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, you can Hidden Power instead. Yeah, makes it this cool. Also, fun for today, it gets Morning Sun for reasons unknown.
It does.
So, I guess I'm going to carry on with the next mon. That's a mon I've started to like a lot more. This is Serperior. I used to think the thing is pretty shit, because it just clicks Leaf Storm and that's it. With Contrary, of course, it gets a free +2 special attack boost, which is really nice. But with its natural speed of 113 and its really good bulk of 75 and with 95 defenses, it's actually really, really cool. Of course, its coverage is incredibly garbage. It gets Leaf Storm, Hidden Power, Dragon Pulse, and that's it on the special side. Or, other grass moves, but does that count as coverage? I don't think so. So, I think it gets like Ring Out as its other special attacking moves that it gets. That's really helpful. So yeah, the thing doesn't have any good coverage, but it doesn't need that. A lot of things that resist grass can beat with like Synthesis set or Taunt set or both combined even, which is really nice. And the thing is just a really, really good late game cleaner. You can also run it bulky, you can run dual screens on it, and kind of use that. And of course a really important option is Glare, which was probably one of the reasons why it got banned from UU, because it just glared Crowbats on the switch and then you could sweep later on. Did it get banned or did it just move up? I don't remember. Been ages that happened. Anyway, so yeah, that's cool. You can run Subseed, which is always really cool, or just Leaf Seed in general to deal with some things. And if you have annoying Violet mons like Pichu on your opponent's draft, it gets knockoff. It also gets Sword Stance, Calm Mind, and Coil. If you don't want to go with Contrary, those are options. Would I recommend them? No. Could they maybe do something one day? I don't know, maybe. Also, there's the option of Aromatherapy, which is kind of a cool support option, as I said, dual screen, so it can be a cool support one as well. It also gets Pursuit, which I didn't know. That's kind of neat. So yeah, I like Serperior a lot. It's kind of weak at 75 in its attacking sets, but with a free boost from its strongest stab move, that's pretty good. And as I said, late game, it's amazing. And yeah, that's cool. It does things.
Serperior has slowly become one of my favorite mons in OU just because of the, like you mentioned, the Subseed set is so good. Like, you can beat things like Chansey with it. Like, you hit it with a Leech Seed, and then you're using their massive HP stat against them, and you're able to get back massive amounts of HP, just keep clicking sub. They're forced to go for a Soft Boiled at some point. You can Leaf Storm, boost yourself, rinse, repeat. It is walled by other grass types, which is a little unfortunate. Like, Tangrowth can wall it, as long as it's holding like an Assault Vest. A Moongiz walls it. Like, even lower tier grass types like Go-Goat and stuff wall it. Things like that, because it doesn't have great coverage for it, like you said. But this thing does have a lot of different or not a lot, but it has multiple different sets that really work against certain teams. Like you said, the Life Orb Glare set, like Leaf Storm, 2 other moves, and then Glare can really be useful to not only sweep late game, but also to catch things that would want to switch in and paralyze them. So like if your opponent has, like you mentioned, a Crobat or a Golbat, you can just click Glare on the switch in and paralyze them, and then they are crippled. Even things like a Moongifts or Tangrowth, like I mentioned, that want to switch in, you can Glare them, paralyze them, possibly get some Parahacks going your way. Whatever wants to switch in, you can just paralyze, which is always really nice. It does also get access to instant recovery in Synthesis, so you don't always have to rely on Leech Seed. Yeah, it's not like a super versatile mon, but it does have other options that I think people just don't necessarily consider all the time. Like Subseed is personally my favorite. Life Orb is always really good. You can swap out Life Orb for Miracle Seed if you want to. And yeah, there isn't really too much else to go about it. It's just really solid. Also a very fast taunt user, that's always fun. I would definitely recommend picking this thing up. It's very solid on Fire, Water, Grass cores, just because it does have access to instant recovery. It's not frail whatsoever, 75 HP, 95 defenses, and like you said, it is relatively weak to begin with 75 special attack, especially if you're not running a Life Orb, but you gotta consider that Leaf Storm, its strongest move, is basically a Draco Meteor. It has the same base power as Draco Meteor. It is coming off of a base 75 special attack stat. It's not gonna hit insanely hard, but it is still there, and it is still going to do a decent amount of damage to whatever comes in, and especially if you get it on a switch, you're boosting your special attack instantly. Like, you're doubling your special attack. You're going from 249 if you're timid to almost 500. So it's definitely worth it to pick this thing up. It's like it's kind of like a weird wall breaker type thing, because like it doesn't, like, it beats pretty much every bulky Pokemon either with Subseed or just by boosting its special attack, but it doesn't do it immediately.
Taunt.
Yeah, or with Taunt. So it's like, it doesn't beat them immediately, but it can beat pretty much every other bulky Pokemon just by boosting itself and by attacking or by leech seeding opposing Pokemon. So definitely a mon I would recommend picking up sometime in the future. It's really cool. I don't see it used too often, but it definitely can be used well, and given the right circumstances, it can absolutely sweep through teams.
Yeah, and there aren't many good ground grass types, especially not when you get resist ground actually, because a lot of them are poison types. So Serperior has that going for it as well, which is always cool.
Definitely, that is Serperior. Let's see. I guess if anything, definitely pair Serperior with I guess just fat things so that you can.
Kind of cool.
Dugtrio? Yeah, Dugtrio makes sense. The trap.
Or like Trappers in general. Dugtrio is obviously amazing, but
yeah, maybe a good flying type. Torn-T I could see being really good with this, or like a Talonflame or something like that to deal with the grass types. But that's Serperior. Next up, I believe I'm going to move on to the next Pokemon, which is Skarmory. Now, not Weak Armor. That's not what people usually run. Skarmory.
Not yet.
So Skarmory in draft format pretty much does the exact same thing that it does in standard. It's not amazing, but its bulk paired with its typing allows it to wall things that not many other things can wall. Like, for example, you build like a Spadef Skarmory, you can take on a lot of different special attackers. Like, you wall things like Garchomp, which are typically very difficult to switch into. It's a very, very good Quake Edge switch in. Like, there aren't many stab stone edges that are going to knock this thing out, which is always really nice. You can build it Spadef and have it deal with a lot of different fairy types, which is always really nice. It can be a decent stall breaker just with Taunt and Brave Bird. I remember I ran that a while ago to beat things like Chansey because the team was a little bit weak to it. Very good hazard setter. Stealth Rock and Spikes are very nice to have on one single Pokemon. Plus, like I said, you have access to Taunt, so you can stop your opponent from defogging. Plus, you're going to be able to beat most Rapid Spinners. Like, this thing beats Excadrill. It can beat Kabutops. It can beat, not Starmie, but it can beat, I don't know, what are some other Rapid Spinners? Fortress, yeah. It can beat Fortress. If you run Rocky Helmet, you're going to be getting chip damage off onto them as they go for the Rapid Spin, so you have ways to punish that. It is a really good suicide lead mod as well, because it has access to Brave Bird, which means once you get down to Sturdy, you can kill yourself and prevent the opposing Pokemon from going for Rapid Spin or Defog. Like I said, it does have access to Stealth Rock and Spikes. Base 70 speed is not bad, not necessarily great, but it is fast enough to outspeed a lot of uninvested Defoggers or Rapid Spinners, which is always really nice. There really isn't too much else to go over this thing. There are a couple gimmick options that you can do. Like, it does get access to Double Dance. You're probably never going to use that. but it is there.
Yes, you are. Good.
Counter is always a pretty cool option. You can take a physical hit, throw off a counter, and then knock something out. It is a pretty good defogger as well. I think by definition, it's up there among the best defoggers in the game, just because it takes Stealth Rocks neutrally, and then it's immune to all other forms of hazards, which is always really good. Let's see what else. It obviously has Iron Head. It's not very strong, but you can hit Fairy super effectively this way, which is nice. It is a Pursuit Trapper. I don't think that'll ever be useful, but I can see it as maybe once in a while, do something like that. Phaser as well gets access to Roar, which is always really nice. Coverage, it has like Rock Slide, and that's about it, but it apparently gets X-Scissor. I didn't know that. That's something.
Why?
I don't know.
Game Freak.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much else to go over. Like, it's a relatively straightforward Pokemon, but it does its job pretty well.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. It's fat, it does things. Split F Scum is incredibly annoying. If you have to prep for Scum, always prep for Split F Scum as well, because otherwise you're just gonna get walled to death by it. Don't know why it takes special hits so well, but it does. It's stupid. And I guess in pairings, Fairy Dragon Steel was always nice with the thing, because it's incredibly good steel type defensively, and get good fire resists and good ground immunities, electric immunities.
Yeah, definitely a good ground type with Skarmory, because Skarmory is definitely one weakness, is because it's kind of passive, every electric type will be able to just have a free switch into this thing. Or nearly every electric type will have a free switch into this thing, because Brave Bird will not be doing a lot of damage, you're going to threaten this thing immediately. So being able to just have a reliable ground type to switch into is always really nice.
Yep. And that's going to be Skarmory. We're going to move on to another really fat Pokemon, as Slowbro. Of course, a regen beast, really bulky with 95, 110, 80 bulk. Run special attack is pretty decent, not amazing, but good enough for defensive Pokemon. And it has incredible coverage. It gets, of course, Scald, which burns if you're not Manaphy. It gets Psychic Stab, it gets Fire coverage, it gets Grass Knot, it gets Ice Beam, it gets, I think, Focus Blast as well. Yeah, it gets Focus Blast. Earthquake, Ice Beam, it gets all kinds of shit that you're never going to run. Actually, you're going to run a couple of those. And then other moves that you're never going to run, like Belch or Belly Drum. It gets Belly Drum, that's fun. Someone do that, please? Okay, cool. Also, of course, gets the best move in the game. It gets T-Wave, so you can just kind of be there, take hits, T-Wave stuff, and then get the hell out of there, get your regen back, and be nice and healthy. And everything's paralyzed. I really like Slowbro just because you can switch into so many physical attackers. Either take nothing, essentially, or if you take, like, over half, you're like, okay, this is Bandit, and you can switch out and do something appropriate, and that's really cool. Yeah, it's also a really good Calm Mind user, because of its physical bulk, plus the reliable recovery and Slack Off, obviously. So you can run, Calm Mind 2 attacks, Slack Off, and you probably have a win con in most matchups. It also is a decent Trick Room sweeper. It's a good setter, but not a good sweeper, I think. Yeah, because like one of the special attacks is not amazing, but late game, anything can do work if it has at least one special attack or attack. So Trick Room Slowbro is definitely an option you can use. Assault Vest obviously always an option, just to take those special hits and scout for damage and get out of there again and get some regen back. Regenerate is just an incredible ability, getting 33% back every time you switch out, for essentially doing nothing is really, really, really good. And is there anything else that there is worth mentioning? Yes, Slowking is very similar. So if you have a tier-based league, like the UCL draft system, which is not great, but whatever, probably go for Slowking, so Slowbro, just because it's a lower tier Pokemon and it does essentially the same job. It's just more specially bulky and physically bulky, but still bulky enough to take those hits. Does Slowbro get anything that Slowking doesn't get? I know the other way around.
I'm pretty sure they're identical.
Slowking gets Nasty Plot and Slowbro doesn't. That's the only thing that is, I think, just weird.
That is weird. I did not know that.
See, there you go. I'm a genius here. So yeah, I guess, yeah, it's Slowbro. It's bulky, it takes hits, paired with stuff like Tangrowth, and you have an incredible core. Or what else is there? Reuniclus doesn't work. Almola doesn't work. Yeah, Tangrowth, go.
Amoonguss, there you go.
Amoonguss, that's a Pokemon that completely slipped my mind. Yeah, that works perfectly. Go with that.
Yeah, I love Slowbro to death. It is so... It's always that Pokemon in OU, it's particularly the Calm Mind set that I just always lose to, because I always, like, kind of forget about it. It's just so good.
Because you're bad. You're trying to say.
Yeah, but like you said, there are so many different things you can do with this. Like, you can have this thing take knockoffs if you want to without the Colbur Berry, just because it is that physically bulky. Like, you can take a knockoff, get off a Scald, possibly burn the thing, switch out, get Regenerator, be totally fine. You can slap an Assault Vest on this thing and just have it tank any hit from either side, and then, like you mentioned, it has a very good move coverage, or it has a very good move pools, like Scald, Psyshock, Fire Blast, Focus Blast, Ice Beam, Grass Knot. It has coverage to hit pretty much everything. It is a very good Thunder Wave user. It gets access to two of the best moves in the game, Scald and Thunder Wave, which is always just really good, because you can either hit something with a burn, or you can hit something with a paralysis. I guess I'll talk a little bit about the Mega counterpart, which people have mixed opinions on. I think when you ask people, they'll either say this is a terrible Pokemon, or it's really, really good. I'm of the opinion that it's, like, really, really good. So I guess we'll talk about the negatives. Shell Armor is nowhere near as good as Regenerator. Like, I think that's pretty obvious, but it's not like Shell Armor is completely useless, because, like, this is the thing that I lose to and you constantly, because once it sets up, you just can't beat it unless you have a Scald immunity, or they're running Slack Off over Rest and you're able to Toxic it. But the Crowbro set, which is Scald, Calm Mind, Rest, Sleep Talk, can just straight up 6-0 teams if you don't have the Scald immunity. Like, especially with the inability to be crit and its massive physical defense stat, you don't have to invest in a physical defense. You can just build this thing kind of Spadef with Calm Mind, and then you're beating grass types you're beating, like, special and physical attacking grass types. You're beating electric types. You're beating so many different special attackers. You're beating bug types even. And then one of my favorite sets also is just the offensive 3-attack Slack Off set with, like, Scald, Psyshock, and then Fire Blast. And of course, any of those moves can be switched out depending on your matchup. But that's also really fun, because Mega Slowbro is not weak at all with base 130 special attack, and it hits very hard. Like, especially, like, you get an offensive Scald, which is really good. You're able to hit things on the physical side. And then you get fire coverage and ice coverage for those grass types that may want to switch in. So it's actually very surprisingly, like, difficult to switch into if you build this thing offensively. And you're still taking, like, every hit possible on the physical side. Like, honestly, this is a really, really good knockoff switch in, just because of its base physical defense stat, and obviously you can't get your item knocked off.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I hate it.
Yeah, of course, this thing is susceptible to being whittled, because you don't have the passive recovery and leftovers that regular Slowbro does. You don't have Regenerator, so going up against teams with Hazard Stack can be very annoying, but still, you can Slack Off versus almost every physical attacker in the game.
Yeah. I think there are leagues who have it banned, or at least have Crowbro banned, which is ridiculous, but hey, who am I to judge? It's like, it's really annoying to prep for. It takes a lot of prep. If you expecting a Crowbro set, because you can't just crit it, because, you know, Shell Armor is stupid. So yeah, that's that. Do I do the next one? Yeah? No?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. Next one is Starmie, another water psychic type. Arguably one of the best, if not the best, rapid spinner, depending on who you ask, but definitely up there in the top 3, top 2 of rapid spinners. Incredible speed here in 115, it is so valuable. One of its special attack is not amazing, as you mentioned before, but it does get analytic, and with a life orb and with its coverage, that's really, really good. 60 HP isn't great, but 85 defenses are pretty decent. Also has way more attack than I thought. 75 is not as awful to be. That's interesting. But yeah. Starmie gets natural cure and analytic, 2 really good abilities. Also Illuminate is incredibly helpful. Natural cure means you don't have to worry about, like, toxics, Scald burns. You don't have to worry about those, which is really, really nice. You can switch into opposing water types. Don't have to worry about good old T-Wave, and it's nice. But analytic also is really good because it gives you a boost every time your opponent switches. Analytic doesn't only work when you're slower. It also works when your opponent switches out, which some people still don't know. If you didn't, then there you go, you learned something today, kids. So you get a boost every time your opponent switches out, or switches into something rather. So that's cool. So if you're on life orb, you essentially have 2 life orbs, I guess, and that's really, really strong. It also has really good coverage in Ice Beam. It gets, of course, dual stab. It doesn't get Calm Mind, even though it's a psychic type. I don't know why. It's silly. Also gets T-Volt and stuff like that. So Grass Knot is also an option. So that's really good coverage. It also is, as I said, a really good rapid spinner, and it gets reliable recovery and recover, which on a spinner or on any Pokemon essentially is really, really valuable. Other options include Trick Scarf, T-Wave, because T-Wave is a good move, and Reflect type. Reflect type is one of my favorite moves, essentially just copying your opponent's typing, which can be helpful against something like a Pursuit Trapping Bishop or T-Tar, even though T-Tar's not going to try to Pursuit Trap Starmie necessarily. Draft play at least. So, but yeah, that's the thing you can do. It's really nice. There's not much to go over, but it's just a fast, hard hitter that spins, which there aren't many reliable or good Pokemon that can click Rapid Spin at all, so that's good about Starmie. It's not a bulky water type necessarily, so if you draft Starmie, you're probably going to end up wanting a secondary water type that's bulkier. Can actually switch into things more reliably, but if necessary, you can run a bulky set and like a bulky fast set, especially like max HP, max speed, and stuff like that. So it does its job. It's cool. It's somewhat hard to switch into for a lot of teams, and that's nice.
Definitely. This is always one of those Pokemon when I see it on my opponent's side of the field where I just realize, like, its coverage can 2 KO my entire roster. Depending on, obviously, what type of Pokemon you have. Like, if you have a really bulky Psychic, then you're not going to be able to. If you have a really bulky Water, then you're not going to be able to. But regardless, it is still very good with its coverage, and even though 100 base special attack isn't great, it can be analytic boosted, and you still have Stab, Hydro Pump, and really good coverage to 2 KO most things. So, like you mentioned, Reflect type is really, really useful on this thing. I remember in my PPL game versus Sam, I had Skuntank, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna Pursuit Trap it, and then he Reflect typed, and then not only did I not have anything to touch this Starmie, but then I had to switch something else into a Scald, and it would have been able to beat me. You can run defensive, like you mentioned, with like Scald, another coverage move, Rapid Spin, and Recover. I like to run Toxic a lot of the time just because you can Scald the things that... You can Scald pretty much everything, hope for a burn, and then you can Toxic whatever else can't be burnt, like other, maybe like water immunities, which is always really nice. And of course, you can obviously run like things like Thunderbolt and stuff to hit things like Volcanion that you can't touch otherwise, but Starmie is like really good. Like you said, really good Rapid Spinner, but definitely if you're going to draft this thing, and you do like to have hazard removal, draft other hazard removal with it, because sometimes you're going to want 4 attacking moves, or you're going to want Recover instead of using up a slot on Rapid Spin, just because it has really good coverage, and you want to take advantage of that the best that you can. I don't think there's too much else to go over on this thing. You went over it pretty well. It's very solid. It's a very solid Pokemon. Its coverage is great. You can kind of, similarly to Mew, not exactly like Mew, but you can throw it on the end of a team and be like, okay, do I need coverage for something? Do I need an offensive mon for this team? Do I need more of a support mon with like Thunder Wave and Rapid Spin? What do I need? And then you can throw it on, and it'll probably put in a good amount of work because it is a very solid Pokemon. My turn or your turn?
Your turn.
Yay, okay, this is a fun one. Alright. Next up on the list
Wait, it is. I'm stupid. It's your turn.
Okay, next up on the list is Talonflame. So Talonflame's a Pokemon, I think very early in draft format, like first couple seasons of GBA, people were like, yeah, it's gonna be great, because it was like really good no-you also at the time, because like people didn't know how to deal with Gale Wing's Brave Bird. And then for a while, people were like, maybe it's not that good. And then now it's starting to gain a lot of popularity because people are realizing, oh, it actually is really good. You just gotta build around it properly, and it's not the most broken thing on the planet, but you have to eliminate your opponent's counters to it, which is not super difficult with Talonflame. So, obviously, you look at Talonflame's stats, none of them look great up until you get to speed. But again, the thing that sells this thing the most is Gale Wings, which if you don't know, which I'm sure you do because it was all everyone talked about for the first like month that this game was out, is that flying moves are given priority, meaning that your Brave Bird will go first before like Azumarill's Aqua Jet or Crawdon's Aqua Jet, and you'll be able to hit it very hard. Even though it only has base 81 attack stat, yes, there are Joes like, Torkoal has higher attack than this thing. You get a stab base 120 move that is extremely spammable in flying. You also, of course, have your secondary stab in Flare Blitz for certain steel types you can hit. You have access to instant and priority recovery in Roost, which is really nice. You have, of course, access to setup in the forms of Bulk Up and Swords Dance. Both are very good sets. There are a few different sets on Talonflame, and all of them are really good depending on the matchup. If you build this thing Spadef with Bulk Up, or even just like Spadef with like Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, and Roost, you will be able to beat some bulky waters, just because even though its defensive stats are not great, you invest fully in Spadef, and you're not going to be 2KO'd by a lot of different skulls. You can beat fairies with this thing that don't have HP rock, just because you resist the Moonblast, and you'll be able to recover up, taunt them, stop them from statusing you, things like that. Like, this thing can set up on Clefable if it's not running like Hidden Power Rock or something along those lines, or Florges or any other fairy type. Once again, even though 81 attack is not that great, you throw a Choice Band on this thing, and it will be OHKOing a decent number of offensive things. Like, I believe, like, not a ton of different things, but it will OHKO a good number of things. Is that a sentence? It doesn't OHKO a lot, but it OHKOs a lot, yeah. Okay, it's not super strong, but also with Gale Wings, a lot of the times you can afford to run Adamant, and then you're hitting even harder. And then with the Choice Band, you do have the ability to OHKO a lot of faster, not necessarily bulky threats. So, like, I remember when I filled in for Elliot's game, I ran Choice Banded Brave Bird, and then after a little bit of damage, it just knocked out something like Hydreigon, which is not a frail Pokemon at all. It can OHKO things like, I don't know, what are some examples of things that OHKO? It can OHKO, like, Max Speed Starmie, for example, with Adamant Choice Banded Brave Bird, which is always nice, just because you always get to go first. And yes, it doesn't OHKO everything on the planet, because it is still only base 81 attack, but you're still hitting things hard, and after some chip damage, you will be able to just clean up teams. Talonflame is one of those Pokemon where sometimes it can be this Mon versus like 4 of your opponent's Pokemon, and as long as you've whittled them down correctly, you can just click Brave Bird and win the game. What's also really nice is with the defensive set with Will-O-Wisp, you are able to cripple this thing's counters, because Talonflame is one of those Pokemon that your opponent's probably going to have counters to. Like, there are plenty of them in OU, there are plenty of them in other tiers, like most rock types, just bulky, mons that are bulky on the physical side, like Lando T, Slowbro, like we've mentioned, like some of the things that are on screen currently. Just all of those Pokemon can switch into Talonflame, but if you're burning them, not only will you be able to cripple them and whittle them down, but you also, after cutting their attack, may be able to set up on them. Like, if you burn a Lando T, I believe afterwards you can start setting up bulk ups onto it, depending on your investment. Like, Stone Edge won't be doing enough to you, and you can roost off the damage, make Stone Edge even weaker versus you. So, it is really helpful in that regard. There are a bunch of different good Talonflame sets. My favorite two are probably the Banded set as well as the Spadef Bulk Up set, just because they can both really rip their teams. The Bulk Up set can sweep their teams, the Banded set can also sweep their teams as long as you've whittled them down properly.
Yeah, I like Talonflame, I just never want to play it, like, against it. It's really annoying. One thing you definitely need to keep in mind is have really, really good hazard removal with the thing, because you need those rocks off the field most of the time. Otherwise, you're gonna have to be a Roost variant, which isn't too bad. You're probably gonna have Roost most matches, but still, definitely get good hazard removal with the thing so I can Brave Bird as freely as possible. I think I also like something really cool about the thing is it's really good against offense, because you just click Brave Bird and they don't want to take hits because they're offensive. It's also really good against really fat teams, because Spadef Taunt Bird is really, really good and just beats a lot of bulky Pokemon. When something that's good against pretty much every playstyle, or against every playstyle, is really valuable. Also, Acrobatics is a cool option that you always have. Overheat is cool for some things like Skarmory, I guess, to some extent, or Ferrothorn if you don't want to take that damage from Rocky Helmets and Thingy, what's it? The ability? Yeah. Fucking, what's the Ferrothorn's ability called?
Iron Barbs.
Iron Barbs, there we go. My head was just like, rough skin. No, wrong Pokemon. Yeah, that. So like, Overheat is cool for that, but not much to say about Talonflame anymore. You said most things. Make sure you don't have Flame Body on it. That could be bad for you. That's pretty much it. Okay, anything else? I guess good ground type with Talonflame as always.
Yeah,
I think every draft should have a good ground type anyway. So,
yeah, I'll also mention it's one of my more preferred Tailwind setters. Like, I don't typically like to run Tailwind, but because you get priority Tailwind, you can set it up, die, and then have something else come in.
Yeah.
I remember in OU a while ago, I ran this paired with Mega Gardevoir, and Mega Gardevoir under Tailwind's really good. Most slow wall breakers under Tailwind are really good, so that's something you can also take advantage of.
Yeah, that's cool. So,
alright, we're gonna make this one the last one, just I gotta cut it a little bit short.
All right, cool. Yeah.
Oh
Next
god,
one,
we're ending on
Tangrowth.
this.
Mono's favorite. Tangrowth is really cool if you're not Mono 2E. Ridiculously bulky, 100 base HP, 125 defense, 50 special defense is pretty terrible, but with an Assault Vest and Max Invest Split, which is the most common set in draft play. I don't know, I think in OU it runs Fizz Dev, right? Rocky Helmet and shit?
It runs a couple different sets. I know you can run like Max Special Attack Assault Vest, you can run Max Spadef Assault Vest, you can run Rocky Helmet.
Okay, cool. So, like Max Spadef Assault Vest takes everything ever, and you just don't all-code a thing with anything. It's ridiculous. So that's cool. Always something that can just annoy your opponent by taking hits, getting damage off, and has really good coverage as well. Is really nice. Plus Regenerator means you can switch into things, scout for damage. It's something like a Spec Sylveon is threatening to your team, and you have something like a Ferrothorn in the back. You can be like, okay, Tangrowth, switch in. You know why you have Tangrowth and Ferrothorn, whatever. Be like, Tangrowth, check if he specs or not. If he specs, you get 2 killed, but you live 1, and if he isn't specs, you don't get 2 killed, and you're fine. So it kind of allows you to scout, and if he specs, you switch into Ferrothorn, stuff like that. So that's nice. And if he goes for HP Fire, you shoot at because you're Tangrowth. So that's cool stuff. Knockoff is always good on it. It has a bunch of different grass step options that you can run physical or special, because it has 100 attack, 110 special attack. That's nice. Earthquake is cool, Focus Blast is cool, Hidden Powers are cool. What else is a good move on it? I think, yeah,
Sludge
that's
Bomb.
it, knockoff. Sludge Bomb is cool. Poison Jet on the other side. Rock Slide for things like Talonflame on the switch-in. And yeah, I like to think it gets Sword Stance as well, which is an option. Not a good one, but it's an option. It gets Stun Spore if you don't want to Assault Vest. Stun Spore is cool. Sleep Powder is obviously really cool. Synthesis for reliable recovery if you're not running Assault Vest. It also can run a Chlorophyll set with Sunny Day. I have done that. It almost did something. And it also misses a lot of moves, as Mono can tell you about.
Yeah.
So
Misses
misses a ton of moves. That's why my call is...
Gets frozen.
Gets crit. Frozen,
Gets
that's the one, yeah.
Gets misnamed.
It's it's Manaphy 2.0, but like even worse in terms of bad luck, apparently. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, this thing is really good. Paired with Slow King or something like that, and you have a ridiculously good core. You can just kind of switch between and have your opponent be sad about it. Yeah, I really like Tangrowth. It's really fat. It has Regenerator, which is a ridiculously good ability. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
I'll let you cry about it now.
Yeah, so before I get into why I hate this thing entirely, which I did kind of touch on a little bit, it is like just super good. Like, it's probably one of the best grass types in the format. It's not passive at all because it has really good move coverage, and it has 110 special attack and 100 attack with good moves on both sides. Like you said, you mentioned like you can hit Talonflame on the switch-in with Rock Slide. To be completely honest, you can just stay in versus Talonflame, take like 60% from Brave Bird, kill it with Rock Slide, switch out, and live more later on. It's just absolutely incredible. I believe if you're physically defensive, you take an Adamant Scarf Victini's V-Create, just because of how ridiculously physically bulky this thing is. And then even though Spadef doesn't look good on paper, you throw an Assault Vest onto this thing, and it's very difficult to... It's nearly impossible to OHKO this thing. There are very few things that can 2 KO it. You're going to be tanking Hidden Powers, no problem. You're going to be tanking weaker Flamethrowers and Fire Blast relatively well as well. You cover pretty much everything. It's got so many good offensive options, so many good utility options. The only real problem with this thing is its lack of immediate special defense. Like, if you're not running Assault Vest, you can beat this thing pretty easily by hitting it with special attacks, as well as, of course, its speed being kind of lacking, but, it's a wall. It's not necessarily supposed to be fast unless you are running a Chlorophyll set, which can work. 110 special attack, Life Orb, Solar Beams, Giga Drains, Focus Blast, Sludge Bombs, things like that. They are going to hurt quite a bit. If you guys didn't watch my PPL, my D2 Season 1 season, which I assume a lot of you actually have not because I gained most of my subs somewhat recently. Basically, every time I brought it, just bad things would happen to it. And, like, all of D2, it got frozen, it got paralyzed in bad situations, it got crit in bad situations, it missed so many moves. Like, there was one game it missed 3 Rock Slides in a row that seriously cost me. just so many different things went wrong with it. And then one game it got misgened and it was misnamed. Funnily enough, it was supposed to be named Santa Christ, and the person who did it for me named it Santa Claus. Which is hilarious, but also like it had the wrong hidden power, so I couldn't touch Scizor. And then I was like, okay, that was just one season, and I'm gonna pick it up one more time for the March Madness tournament. Very first game it's in, the very first thing it does, I switch it into Medicham to take an Ice Punch, and it gets frozen. Just the very first encounter it had during that entire thing, and it just gets frozen.
I couldn't stop laughing. It was hilarious. I loved it.
Yeah, I also misspelled it. Its name was supposed to be Redemption, but I misspelled it, which is probably why that happened. But Tangrowth is actually like really good, and there are very few situations. Like, it's a super good regenerator Pokemon. If you're working on Fire, Water, Grass cores, this is definitely one of the better Pokemon to get it, or to add to that. Really good, multiple different aspects.
Yeah, it's a cool guy.
Yeah, and with that being said, I think we're going to wrap up this episode here. I apologize if it's a little bit shorter, but I have somewhere to be. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave a... Please...
Go on.
Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Is there anything else you would like to say?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Goodbye.
Yes. Don't take my channel. I suck. Bye.